Hey, hi. Thanks a lot for joining in. Today we have an exciting guest. It's another amazing guest on our Web3 Wisdom podcast. He is none other than Will Griffiths, the GM of Motorverse and Animoca. So welcome, Will. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being here on the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we looked into your profile, I mean, obviously you have done quite a lot of amazing things, but I would want to understand what inspired you to pursue a career in digital product strategy and gaming, because Motorverse, the name says it by itself, right? It's a gaming thing. So, what brought you into this gaming ecosystem?
I've done lots of different things, but I grew up watching. We used to have videotapes of like Star Wars and Indiana Jones that we would watch on repeat at home. So I kind of grew up on this, all these amazing movies in the 80s and 90s. And I also started, obviously, the games industry was growing then as well. So I started playing loads of video games, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I never thought that I would get into games, and I don't think digital product management was even a career at that time. I went to university and studied engineering, and then I got into consulting for a bit. And I was an ethical hacker for a bit, which
Mhm.
was basically where you break people's security. So I was in this sort of crypto-y kind of space. And then I noticed that the iPhone had come out along with everyone else, and there was an app store, and so I started getting involved in that. And I went to work for a company called Natural Motion. It was a video games company as a producer, and worked my way there through like three or four different products. And I really enjoyed this, basically the scale of the impact that you could have. So you could make a game and it would reach like this huge audience, and you just bring a little bit of fun to people's lives, all over the world. I had this amazing experience where we launched a game, and then we were on holiday in Australia, and I saw
Mhm.
somebody living in the UK on holiday in Australia, and I saw somebody playing the game that we'd made
Mhm.
in our little studio in Oxford in the UK, and realized the kind of global reach. And then I guess we've all been just experiencing these little optimizations that these technology products can bring to our lives over the last, 15, 20 years, things like Facebook and Instagram, all the way down to like the AI assistants that we have now. And I really like that. And I like working kind of logically through how to find out an audience for a product, and then frame this problem space and start solving it, and then give people something that makes a bit of a difference. So it really works for me. I enjoy making products this way.
Oh, cool. I mean, that's really great to hear. And one thing that I'm really curious to know is the mindset that you carry, right? I mean, which city are you based off at the moment?
So we currently live in Perth in Australia,
Perth.
but I'm the only
Okay.
person from the team here. We moved here for family reasons a few months ago.
Okay.
But
Okay.
previously I was in Oxford,
Oh,
and
okay.
spent a lot of time in London. So,
Okay.
move around
Okay.
a bit.
Okay. I mean, Perth. I'm not sure if you're into cricket, but being a cricket fanatic, I'm really crazy about the Perth. They call it Waka pitches, bouncy,
That's right.
pacey pitches. And I love the mindset of the Aussies on field or be it off field. The aggression they carry, the mindset, the winning attitude is close to winner's mindset. I mean, what else you can expect from athletes? So coming from such a background, such a city, what sort of inspired you in early days, and that is something that you have already answered, and I would love to know the connection between Animoca and Motorverse, because as a community, obviously people know that you are part of Animoca's ecosystem. So how and when this whole connection happened, and what is the current relation between Animoca brands and Motorverse?
Okay, so I joined Animoca about 2 years ago, and
Okay.
they had recently acquired three different racing studios, one in
Okay.
Melbourne, one in Phoenix, Arizona, and one in Lyon in France. And they also had this token, which is part of their portfolio, called the Rev token. And they played around and launched a few different games. And and it was sort of introduced to me as this Lego set. So that we think there's something in here. We've had some successes. We've got this, we've got a community of people rallying around these different games, and now we have this capability of making AAA games as well. We also had this PFP collection called Talk Squad, and they were like, here you go, here's this big mixture of different IPs and teams and people from all over the world working in Web3 and in Web2. And they wanted to make sense of that. And that's what the Motorverse is. So we spent about a year kind of going through all of these different products, lining them all up, thinking about how they're going to work together, making sense of the token within them. And then we launched the kind of umbrella brand for those studios and for the token, the Motorverse, in February this year, NFT Paris. And so Motorverse is wholly owned and part of Animoca, part of their portfolio. So it sits alongside, things like AniChess and Motorverse and Gamey and these other studios.
Cool. That's good to know. So you're fully part of Animoca, which is what some people are already aware of, but I believe some of the community is still not aware of this fact. So good that we open that up to the community. And what do you think that sets Motorverse apart from other digital vehicle ecosystems? Because there are quite a lot, as you said. Even Animoca has acquired a couple of them. So how do you think Motorverse sets apart from the other ecosystems?
So my background is in more recently in racing games and portfolio management and strategy for EA, Codemasters, and a few other studios. And what I wanted to do with Web3 was find something that we could leverage that actually delivers just like a step change in what people can expect when they play video games. Okay, so I think there are lots of really amazing Web3 projects that are doing, like, might have one game or in some cases a couple, and they're thinking about how they weave the token into their experience, and that's really wonderful for the Web3 community, and that works well, and it's a good kind of growth engine. But longer term, what I want to do is, if I'm a racing gamer or a motorsports fan, of which we think there's about 1 billion people in the world who identify that way, I want them to, if they come to the Motorverse, to see that this is a new paradigm, a new way of experiencing racing in cars online. And the way that we do that is through interoperability. So there's a lot of talk of interoperability in Web3, and
Yes.
it's a very deeply discussed topic, and there are lots of different contexts, and there are definitely big challenges with it. But we think that cars are the perfect vehicle for this, because cars have metadata and characteristics that it'll find in the real world. We all know how they should perform, so we know that a particular car would be much faster than another just because that's how it behaves. So there is an expectation of the relative performance between the different vehicles, and there's a blueprint already there for the data that's required to define that. And so we've built a standard that allows everyone to participate. And so there's three different key groups of people that really need to benefit from this for this to work. So the car brands, the users, and the games makers. And so by creating this standard that allows cars to be moved around games, users can buy a car once and then use it in one game, drive it somewhere else, and start to have a relationship with a car like you would in the real world, build a history. It becomes rarer and rarer the more that you do with it. If you won certain competitions, that becomes like a little mark in its history. So this is better than what we have today. We think more people will buy these things than would buy the traditional assets that you would get in a Web2 video game, in a walled garden where you go, hey, you buy this car and you can only use it in this game. We also think that one of the biggest challenges that we saw that vehicle brands were having is that they were minting these collections of cars, and then there was nothing to do with them, or no one was buying them, or not enough people were buying them. So we're solving for that problem by using this standard, which we build the cars against, and then those cars have utility in multiple games. And we're concentrating the demand for those vehicles inside the Motorverse. So there's this collection of users that are really interested in motorsport and interested in racing games, and then we're like, hey,
Mhm.
now here's a new car for you. Here's a new car. So all these people are interested in, purchasing or understanding more about those brands, come there to buy them. And then the video
Mhm.
games manufacturers love it too because they get access to these licenses. So the deals that we're doing with manufacturers means that if you make a game against our standard, then
Mhm.
that car will work in your game. And this is part of
Oh,
the deal that we're doing. And they also
okay.
get user acquisition. So
Mhm.
if you imagine you'd sold 100,000 cars, and
Mhm.
then you make a game, I as a video game developer make a game that those cars now work in, everyone who has a car
Mhm.
receives a notification that now their car works somewhere new. So off they go
Mhm.
to continue telling their story with their vehicles. And as those new audiences come in from different games, that
Mhm.
drives the secondary market. So then
Mhm.
you get that should, in theory, apply pressure to the floor price. And it
Mhm.
also is beneficial to the brands because they're taking a cut of the secondary sales from the
Mhm.
royalties. So the users get something better, probably the
Mhm.
most important piece of the puzzle. The
Yeah.
brands get to solve for their problem of demand and increasing utility. And video games companies get user acquisition and access to
Mhm.
licenses.
Cool. So it's like a trilogy, right? I mean, you connect users. I mean, being user centric is one of the good qualities of a founder, and I'm glad that you possess that a lot instead of focusing on other other parts of the whole story. And you keep launching updates, right? I mean, as an entrepreneur, obviously we keep launching features, we keep launching updates, and one thing that was a standout in recent times was this Cosmic Royal beta launch. Could you please
Mhm.
walk us through that a bit?
Yeah, so Cosmic Royale we made with our Eden Games studio based in Lyon in France.
Okay.
And it's a sort of mixture of Mario Kart and Fall Guys. So
Okay.
it's instead of driving around a lap, three times, it's a point to point race. And
Mhm.
there are 40 people together at the beginning of the race. And then
Mhm.
whoever wins in the top half gets into the next race. And then there's three rounds, and then there's a winner at the end. And all sorts of like obstacles and power ups along the way. So just on its own two legs, without even starting to talk about Web3, it's quite fun. Like a lot of people have been playing it. It's still in closed beta.
Mhm.
Um, but the Web3 angle is, so you think about Mario Kart, they have like the Mushroom Kingdom and like
Mhm.
all these different Bowser's
Mhm.
Castle and all this kind of stuff. We're
Mhm.
going to theme our different areas using different PFP collections, and we're introducing PFP collections to the game. So the first PFP collection we've included is the mockers. So if you own a
Mhm.
mocker and you come into the game, this is the Motorverse PFP
I
collection.
own one.
Uh,
I own yes, I am a Mocha holder myself. Not a financial
Congratulations.
advice though.
Yeah, yeah, like, of course.
Yeah.
But if you were to log into the game, you would
Uh-huh.
see the 3D representation of your mocker driving
Uh-huh.
around in the cart, which is
Wow.
like quite
So
cool.
cool. Yeah.
And then, but so we start with Mocha. It's called Cosmic Royale because it's this sort of rift in the universe, and anything goes. So like any collection can join in. So we're talking to loads of other collections about adding them in future seasons. So you get this
Mhm.
really cool mixture of different Web3 IP. And then the kicker is it goes out on the Epic Games Store in Q4. And when that happens, you're going to have hundreds of thousands of free to play Web2 kart game players rubbing shoulders with all these weird and wonderful Web3
Mhm.
PFP collections rendered in 3D. So we're
Mhm.
hoping to see a lot of engagement from the communities that we
Mhm.
integrate from a PFP point of view, but also they're going to get amazing exposure, and we'll start to have people hopefully making the leap across, going, "Hang on a minute, what is that? What is that unusual character over there? How do I get that?"
Mhm.
And then you go down that rabbit hole and find yourself in Web3.
Good. I mean, I'm gonna definitely spend some time over this weekend to try that out because I was not personally aware that my Mocha can be part of this gaming ecosystem. So would definitely try that this weekend. Thanks for that. And obviously, uh, community is one of the vital cog in every Web3 project, right? I mean, you cannot take out the community because there is NFT, there is token, there is this gaming aspect, there is entertainment. So uh, engaging a community is obviously an important aspect of a project or an ecosystem. And when I looked at your project, you have this fan powered sponsorship program to engage your community. Could you please walk us through that a bit? Because that was uh, obviously a different way of engaging your audience than the other ecosystems that I have seen so far.
Yeah, so we think of ourselves as obviously racing games community, but not exclusively. We want to appeal to the world of motorsport. Um, we
Mhm.
have been working very closely with the Gresini MotoGP team. So MotoGP, if you don't know what it is, it's like the F1 of motorbikes. And the way that we arranged our sponsorship with them this year is that typically sponsorship works through you negotiate with a team or an athlete, and there's a fee, and then you put your logo on their shirt, and that's it. You get exposure, you know, game over. The way we're doing it is we've got this deal that we're calling fan powered sponsorship, where we're able to, leveraging Web3, sell sponsorship space on the bikes to users. So there are different tiers that you can get into. You can find it on the Motorverse website, motorverse.com. But you go in and you can choose to be like a tier one partner, and that would mean that your name would be on the bike for a weekend, or your Twitter handle, so you get exposure. There's a lot of like high definition footage of the bikes going past. You'll see this. Also, you'd be able to visit the course and meet the team, do video calls with the
Mhm.
riders.
Mhm.
And then, that's the sort of top tier. And then lower down, there are other sorts of engagement where you would,
Mhm.
get a chance to meet people, get some merchandise. Maybe you'll be on the website. We'll have a sort of wall of all the fans who are part of the team. And so
Mhm.
over the course of the season, you can sort of claim to be. You'll have an NFT that can prove that you're an official sponsor, and you're
Mhm.
part of the Gresini team and their family
Oh,
for the season, which has been really fun. And there's been like emergent stuff around it as well, where um,
wow.
there's little communities of
Mm.
these fan sponsors who are
Mhm.
starting to connect with one another because they're having these amazing shared experiences in real life, but they're all driven by this Web3 thing. And it's also um, quite interesting because a lot of them are not necessarily
Mhm.
native, so Web3 native people. So they've come in and they've discovered the kind of the power of this technology and the way that we can confer these benefits. I mean, it's quite exciting.
Well, I mean that's so good to hear, right? I mean, you connect the community to the team, to the players itself is what an amazing way of giving back to the community, right? It's this is actually the Web3 ethos a lot of companies dream of, and you're actually crushing it. And when you speak about MotoGP and all these uh, brands, I see a lot of partnerships that you have already done with major brands, and that will definitely keep coming. Could you please walk us through some of the major brands that you collaborate with?
Yeah, so we've done lots actually. We work with a lot of the because we acquired these studios that make racing games. We have a lot of deep connections with most of the major automotive brands, just from a historic point of view in Web2. And we have some really interesting partnerships that I can't share yet, but we'll be announcing over the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Hmm.
And with that, the goal is to that sort of leads up to the mint or drop of our first genuinely interoperable car. So you'll be able to buy a beautiful car, which you can just appreciate anyway, because the graphics are sort of photorealistic at this point, and you could consider a collectible, but you can then take that and use it in one game, another game, and then kind of look at it in your Motorverse garage. So that's where we're heading, and we're seeing some really, really great engagement from the brands. I mean, all brands are different, and they have their own kind of appetite for getting involved in this space. But one of the things that we often, discuss with them is that this is a new way of owning one of their cars. A lot of these cars can be pretty expensive, or like dream cars that people, aspire to owning and perhaps never will. But this is a sort of funnel for those brands where they're able to sell, I don't know, 20,000 luxury vehicles inside the Motorverse that can be used anywhere. Um, and and now there's this captive audience of people who are more deeply engaged with their brand.
Well, that's good to hear. So in 6 to 8 weeks, the community can expect something good, something big. And what else in 2024, Will? What's in the plans for the
Um,
2024 and beyond? Hmm.
so this year we've already, it feels like we've done a lot already. I mean, like we've relaunched the brand, we've got Cosmic Royale out in beta, collaborating with the Motorverse around their TGE.
Hmm.
Also, TalkDrift 2 has been doing its own early access, and that
Hmm.
game will go to hard launch, so where it's fully like feature complete with a whole load of extra stuff, and you can see the things dropping in it all the time.
Hmm.
That will happen this year. Cosmic Royale will also go out as a hard launch on the Epic Games Store towards the end of the year as well. But then, we recognize that there's kind of like two approaches going on. So there's one where we're appealing to like the mass audience through these beautiful games and bringing people in and like slowly giving them opportunities to understand the benefits of Web3. But there's another audience of people who already understand it. The people who have been and playing around and enjoying Web3 for the last,
Hmm.
4 or 5 years. And for
Hmm.
them, we've shared the vision. We have a light paper on the website. Our staking um, our staking policy with Rev has been live for about 2 months. And so we'll be starting to do airdrops. There'll be an airdrop relatively soon, so you monitor the socials for that.
Hmm.
Um, and then we're also working with other game studios that are not part of Animoca, who have kind of noticed what we're doing and looking at publishing some of their games on our site too. I'd hope to get one live this year at least, maybe more, and have them adopting this standard so they can get access to the licenses. There's a lot. There's a lot happening. It's exciting.
A lot, yes. I mean, people are expecting the market to flip, but nobody knows when. A lot of people are anticipating the US elections to turn the tables, but let's see. I mean, in the world of uncertain events, uncertain circumstances that happens, um, we have to keep our heads down and focus on building, and that's the right thing that you're doing well. And I assume that being in Perth, being in Australia, I assume that some parts or major parts of your team is remotely based across the globe. So how is it for you to work with an international uh, team?
It's really, I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of difficult to organize meetings because, especially if you have somebody in America, Europe, and Asia at the same time. Um,
Yeah.
but it's really fun because you have what tends to happen is, I mean, we've got people from Melbourne all the way through to the west coast of America, so like, everywhere.
Mm,
But the core team that we used to coordinate all the projects is fairly
mhm,
well spread. So we've usually got someone in a convenient time zone who can, act
mhm,
as point for projects with local people. And then we meet up at events, and this is the new
mm,
sort of in real life moment. You condense all of
mhm,
that good rapport building and
mm,
creating those strong connections when we go to Token 2049 or
mm,
NFT Paris or ECC
mhm,
or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, I mean, and it comes with the time zones, but it also comes with the flexibility. So
mm,
I live in Perth, which is great because the
mhm.
headquarters of Animoca are actually in Hong Kong, which is the same
Hong
time
Kong.
zone.
Mhm,
And I have young children, and I'm able to spend time with them around doing the Motorverse stuff. So
mhm. Cool.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, it's been a pleasure having this conversation for the last few minutes. Thanks for
Likewise.
sharing a lot of insights and the key milestones that are coming up in 2024. But before I let you go, we have a sort of a fun round where we get to know more about your personal stuff because
Mhm.
all this time we have been chatting about Motorverse, Animoca, gaming ecosystems and stuff, but would love to understand you on a personal level. So we have a set of 4 questions. or are you ready for the next segment?
Always. Yeah.
Cool. Let's go. So, what's your favorite physical activity or hobby?
Ooh, well, I like running. I did a big run at the weekend, so I find it's good to, you do some good thinking when you're on a run. I like the discipline of, pushing yourself. I love playing tennis as well.
Mhm.
And obviously with the kids, we are playing with the kids is, that counts as a hobby, but it's certainly a lot of fun. We're going through a Lego phase at the moment, so there's a lot of Lego in the house, which is good for me because I love Legos. So I'm able to relive my childhood guilt-free.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you won't get this time anytime back. So have fun and have a great time with the kids. So, who is your biggest inspiration? And anyone outside of Web3 would be great, but yeah, it could be one person, it could be multiple people, but who are your inspiration slash inspirations?
Uh, there's a couple of people that spring to mind. When you ask these kind of questions, like, what's your favorite movie? I think there's some psychology that, like, when you're asked the question, you come up with like five movies in your head, and you go, that one will do, and then you can't think of any others. But what what I'm thinking about at the moment is a guy called Johnny Wilkinson, who's
Hmm.
he was a fly half for the England rugby team. I think he's pretty. I like his sort of stoic approach and his commitment to getting things done. I always felt that he was a very honourable individual, and I kind of value that, and I definitely consider him to be, um,
Hmm.
a pretty good example. Um, but then he's also pretty serious. So that's the kind of side of him that's less interesting. And then I I also think people who are just sort of effortlessly cool. So like someone like Harrison Ford. I like that. I
Mm.
like the kind of relaxed
Yeah,
sort of approach to life, but still navigating it
good.
with ease.
Good. Two contrasting answers. One serious and one chill nature. So yeah, good. And moving on to the next one, which city is your favorite? Because I know that you have hopped on to several different cities in your career. So I would love to know
Mhm.
which city is your favorite and why.
So I mean, I've lived a lot in Oxford and Perth, uh,
Uh-huh.
and so both of those places I have a soft spot for. Oxford, there's just a lot of I spent a lot of time there when I was younger. I studied there, and it's a pretty beautiful city, and it's got a lot of good things about it. But it's not. I guess the one thing with Oxford is it's not by the sea, and Perth, and it's not very hot. And Perth is, by contrast, I mean, there's a lot less traffic, very relaxed. The lifestyle
Mm.
is very laid back. Seems to be a great place to raise kids. Um, so I definitely like those two places. But if you really push me to think about the places, the city that I think is the best in the world to visit, I
Mhm.
would probably say uh, New York. I
Cool.
think
Yeah.
my time in New York is, always have a good time there.
Yeah.
Pretty blinding spot.
New York is always busy and buzzing, and it's one of my favorite cities as well. Cool.
And one more on that, I think Barcelona. I
Barcelona.
recently spent some time there with MotoGP, and it's just,
Mm.
had the fortune to spend a week
That's
hanging out there, and that's a pretty cool place too.
cool. So one last question before I let you go. So if not Web3, if you could choose any other career, what would it be and why?
I think I think I would be in I'd do something in renewable energy or sustainability,
Yes.
and maybe some technology. I feel quite
Mm.
strongly about it.
Good.
It's something I think about a lot. I feel that a lot of people feel strongly about it, and it's very difficult for people to know what the right thing to do is. So, you watch a terribly sad documentary about it, and you think,
Mhm.
"Gosh, what should I just recycle extra hard this week?" So, I think try and do something to put more power back into the hands of the consumer in that space.
Cool. Cool. That's really wonderful. Well, it's been a pleasure hosting you. Thanks a lot for your time. Any parting thoughts for the community, for those builders and founders who are listening to this podcast?
Um, I think Web3 is a really weird and wonderful place. And so like it almost seems, at one stage people were saying that like every week was like a year, but it's almost like every day something huge is happening. It's like watching this sort of fireworks display of
Totally.
like tokens going off. Um, and so just, believe there's something here. There's definitely product market fit out there for somebody for the masses. And I think you just got to, you know, think about that really hard and then go do it and stick to your guns because there were so many different ideas. Adding yours to the mix,
Sure.
it's got to be worth it.
That's perfect. Thanks a lot. Well, wish we could have you once again in the pod sometime down the lane.
Of
But yeah,
course.
thanks. Thanks a lot. Take care and have a wonderful rest of the evening. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks so much for having me. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.